Happy Friday, everybody. If the pandemic was a Netflix series, we would still be in episode 1. Welcome to Smarter News. I didn't say better news. I said smarter news. And you know what? I believe that you can take tough news as long as we respect the audience. So that's one of the working foundations of Smarter News, to always respect the audience, their intelligence. You are smart. We're just adding a little bit extra to your life. And that's why I wanted to jump on really early this morning before all the kids are up and just talk to you a little bit about this media briefing yesterday that I listened to from the CDC. You'll see more information on our website about that. We've linked to the media briefing so you can actually listen to it yourself, and I encourage you to do that. But there was one part of the briefing, a few parts of the briefing, that I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about because they're confusing. They can be confusing. And at least at this point in this story, in the past, when we've talked about asymptomatic spread, that's been confusing at times to me. So here's the big picture from the CDC yesterday. And it really is that. I don't mean to make a joke about it, but we're really still very much at the beginning of this pandemic. And so this is still part of the first wave. This isn't a second wave when we're looking at a rising rates of infection in the nation. This is just the COVID-19 pandemic. The CDC continues to want to emphasize pre-existing conditions and how much that's really a factor to whether or not you have a serious case of COVID-19. Yes, age is a factor, but age often is related to having more pre-existing conditions. And 60% of Americans have at least one pre-existing condition. A very common pre-existing condition that's not often thought about in that particular way, not thought about in the same way as diabetes or heart disease, is obesity. And 40% of Americans qualify as obese. This is especially important for young Americans because we do have high rates of obesity for young Americans. That is a pre-existing condition for the young that, is not specific necessarily to age. This is a number I want to keep you guys to keep in your mind. For every one case of COVID-19 that the CDC knows about, they believe that there are 10 others. That's based on serological data. So they were able to collect antibodies and see if there's evidence of spread of COVID in blood samples that they've been collecting around the nation. And that's the number they came up with. The CDC director also said that he believes that asymptomatic spread of COVID-19 can be, the virus that causes COVID-19 could be as low as 20% and as high as 80%. I mean, that's a huge range. So they're still very not clear about asymptomatic spread. But if asymptomatic spread is potentially 80%, and for every one case of COVID, there's 10 additional cases, then doesn't that mean we all have it, right? That's what we've talked about a lot in the past. And so here's the math behind this, okay? We have about 2.5 million confirmed cases. We're almost at 2.5 million. I'm rounding up because math at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, 2.5 million cases of COVID-19 in America. So multiply that by 10. You got 25 million cases overall. You're still at less than 10% of the American population with exposure or infection of COVID-19. So we're still not at a really high number. This is the numbers as we know it today. They could change drastically. So keep that in mind. But that's what you should know going into the weekend. For every one case of COVID-19, they think that there's 10 others. And despite that, we're still so early in this pandemic. Very few of us have been exposed. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing transmission, at least at this point, one of the reasons why we're seeing transmission continue, because it's fertile soil, if you will, for it to spread. I know, I'm sorry. I feel like I have to apologize because I wish I had better news. Remember, smarter news, not always better in different ways. Smarter news. Okay, 2 final things just before you go into the weekend. The House of Representatives did pass legislation yesterday on police reform. The Associated Press describes it as almost likely to not go further than the House. There are big differences between Democrat proposals and Republican proposals. The Democrat proposal, one thing that they have in common is that both Republicans and Democrats want to create a national database that would track police infractions, so misconduct. That's something that we don't have right now, and data overall on on police-related incidents, including deadly interactions, is not very good. So they have that in common, but the Democrats want to go further to open police to be personal liable for incidents that happen while they're in the line of duty. And that's effectively a non-starter for a lot of Republicans because they feel like it opens up police to too much liability when they're working in the line of duty to protect the community. So you should know that it passed the House. Where it goes from here, TBD, doesn't look promising ahead of the election. One other thing happening today, the Minneapolis City Council is taking up the first vote that would move towards defunding and disbanding the entire police department. We're a ways away from that, but this would be the first procedural vote, and that's why we're watching it, because it's really the first procedural vote of its kind after the death of George Floyd in the United States of America for a major city. So we'll watch for that today. There's already information up on our website about that if you want to read a little bit more. All right, we have more great content coming on Smarter News on Instagram as well as on our website. So I'll keep you guys posted. Questions, comments, let me know. And as always, email us hello@smarternews.com. I hope you guys grab a second cup of coffee this morning. It's Friday, and keep you posted. Thanks so much for being part of our journey on Smarter News. Love you guys. I'll talk to you later.